In a metropolitan city wherein a group of individuals dress in black vest manipulates human emotions, fellowship at dawn at the seashore, travel with the speed of light. A divine being heart beats for a charming surgeon. Spoilers alert, watch out and stay tuned in a classic drama featured by award-winning Nicolas Cage, release in 1998 by Brad Silberling titled, The City of Angels. The movie opens up with Seth seating unnoticed close to the bed of a sick young girl. The girl notices him as he shares a smile with her while her mother panics in fear, uncertain of what to do. Moments later the girl is rushed to the hospital with medical equipment being mounted on her by the nurses and doctors on post. Next she is seen standing next to Seth, watching as the doctors struggle with her body. He introduces himself to her and tells her he is taking her home. She asks him if her mom will come along and he refuses and says not yet. He then asks her what makes her happy while walking into a bright light with a little girl holding hands. Seth has a friend named Cassiel. They sit on a highway signboard and share nice moments about their daily routine activities. Seth asks Cassiel if he remembers how the feeling to touch feels like, and he first refuses, before admitting he occasionally remembers the feeling. Dr. Maggie, a passionate beautiful surgeon, rides her bike peacefully through the metropolitan city to work. She gets to the hospital while maintaining a cheerful face, changes up into her working attire and gets ready for the day. While listening to jazz music, that seems to loosen up the atmosphere, she carries a surgery on a patient, rushed to the hospital that morning. Everything seems to be going on smoothly and swiftly until the surgeon and her assistants start losing the patient with no pulse at one point, indicating they have lost the patient. Seth watches unnoticed as Maggie and her colleagues fight hard to keep the patient alive. Maggie even uses her hands to manually pump blood from the patient heart into his organs. All her efforts yields no gain as the man gives up the ghost. Maggie announces the sad news to the patient's family and the bitterly weep in stomach agony, bringing tears to her eyes. She believes she is the one responsible for the death of the patient. She confines herself in a lonely area and cries as well. Seth, still being unnoticed to the human eye, tries to comfort her by absorbing her remorse emotions. Maggie looks Seth straight into his eyes without noticing his presence. Later that day at the mall, Seth asks his friend Cassiel if he has ever been seen by a human before, as he thinks Maggie perceived him when he was comforting her. Cassiel is confused by this question but still finds an answer for him, telling him a blind woman once saw him. He reveals they can only be seen if they want a person to see them. Few moments later, an armed robber walks into the shop and robs the storekeeper at gunpoint. Trying to avoid an ugly scene, Cassiel calms the robber anxiety while Seth convinces the shopkeeper to stay calm and peacefully give the money which the robber was requesting. The two angels save the day and smile at their jobs well done. Seth and the other angels are fond of standing on high grounds reading books, seating on staircases, gathering at the center of the hospital and communing at dawn at the seashore. Maggie is still traumatized by the failed surgery and gets laid off by her superiors for some days, to which she disagrees to and feels embarrassed about their decision. This news is brought to her by her boyfriend Dr. Fury. Fury asks Maggie not to be so hard on herself and equally add there was literally nothing she could do or perform to save the man's life. Maggie later goes to meet Nathaniel, one of her patient that is eating unhealthy sweets, to inform him of the cancellation of his operation that was scheduled that week but pushed ahead due to her unstable mind. Seth spends his time walking unnoticed with Maggie, comforting her everywhere she goes in the hospital building. He finds pleasure in doing so and also has this impression she can actually see him. Maggie moves from ward to ward and finally finds comfort at the pediatric ward while staring at the babies. Dr. N, the head of the ward and a friend to Maggie, jokingly gives her the advantages of a surgeon over a pediatrician, trying to cheer her up. She equally complains to her of a child who has hard time sleeping and has been crying non-stop. Maggie reveals to N, after all the years spent as a practitioner, she has just realized nothing is in her control, and if so, in whose arm is it, while at the same time have to give assurance to a patient everything is going to be fine. After a brief study, Maggie decides to take a random walk and notices Seth at Nathaniel's door, one of her patients. She asks him what he's doing standing where he is with visiting hours far over. Seth tells Maggie he was there to visit her as he has come to notice she is in despair. He comforts her by telling her it wasn't her fault she lost her patient and that he still lives not just way she might think he is. The words of this stranger really brightens her up. Maggie, feeling more confident now, successfully carries a surgery on a patient with no difficulties. Seth is very much attracted to Maggie as he continuously spy on her. At home, Maggie takes a warm bath with beer in her hand and reminiscence about the stranger she met earlier in the day, who so happens to be standing and observing her unnoticed all through the night. Seth successfully woos the beautiful surgeon by offering her gift books, reciting comforting poetry verses and telling her he is a messenger from God, which charm the lady, to the sight of a large crowd of angels standing in the hall and observing the pair very closely. Seth asks Maggie out, and the two head to the fruit market exploring a wide range of fruits and other things. Seth cannot tell the taste of fruits nor understand why people cry physically or other human phenomena. Maggie carries him to her serologic laboratory, runs some tests while the two talk about existence, death, faith, and the afterlife. Maggie seems to be attracted to Seth as they dive into more conversations. She gets an emergency call, asks Seth to sit tight and runs to Nathaniel's room where Seth was already there waiting. She helps him to stop choking. Seth feels Nathaniel's emotions, and as he is about to leave the room, Nathaniel shocks him by saying though he cannot see him, he feels his presence there. In the next scene, Maggie, going home, gets surprised to see Fury at her place. She begins to notice there are a couple of things the two don't agree on, though they are in a relationship. Seth, staying unnoticed, see Maggie and Fury about to make out and decides to go have a chat with Nathaniel. Nathaniel reveals to Seth he was once an angel and gave it up by accepting to free will for the love of his wife. He pleads with Seth to take him to a high building where they converse for some while, and then to the shore at dawn where all the angels gather, commune and worship the Creator. Nathaniel stares at the water and takes a swim to the shock of the other angels present. Seth explains to Cassiel his new findings, who doesn't really understand what he is talking about since he doesn't share the same feeling as him. Seth at this point is madly in love with Maggie. At dawn he meets up with Maggie, who invites him to Nathaniel's place for a Thanksgiving party. Maggie's feelings for Seth are becoming irresistible as she finds it hard staying without talking to him. At the party, a snapshot of the children and Seth is taken while playing. Maggie views this picture and doesn't see Seth on it, who is somehow invincible on the shot. She's confused and shocked. Nathaniel gives her a hint saying Seth is an angel, to which she doesn't believe. Back at her place that evening, in disbelief she asks some personal question to Seth, which he can't give a clear answer to. She uses a knife and cut his finger open but sees no blood dripping. Filled with betrayal and fear, Maggie sent Seth away from her house despite him telling her he loves her so much. Heartbroken, Seth is comforted by his friend Cassiel. Nathaniel feels Seth's pain as they share a smoke in a bar. Maggie at this point is confused, undecisive in her actions and desires. She very much wants to see Seth again but has some drawbacks. She continues feels his presence equals CE in the house but can't see him. The next day Maggie gets a revelation about the baby who didn't stop crying, presuming and diagnosing that he has respiratory issues, and tells Dr. N. It just came to her when asked how she knew about the child predicament. She has come to believe in God and accept he is the one in charge of all that happens in the hospital. Gratitudes to Seth's efforts. Fury surprises Maggie with marriage proposal and doesn't receive an immediate response from her. While doing routine checkup on Nathaniel, she wonders why God will let her and Seth meet even after knowing well their destiny differs. He tells her it's all up to her to change this destiny and accept Seth because at this stage he is willing to give up everything for her sake. She heads to the library where she presumes Seth will be and talks in the shadows, informing him about Fury's proposal, whom she technically doesn't love but understand taste and can feel what she feels. Maggie tells Seth our final goodbyes and leaves. Her words encourage him to take a dive and fall from a tall building, crashing down to the floor close by to a group of construction workers who take him for a clown. A revelation given to him by the once angel Nathaniel, on how to become a human being. After the fall, Seth now hears disoriented noises, feels pain, tastes food and sees his own blood for the first time. In pain, he happily finds his way to the hospital and get informed that Maggie has gone to one of her uncle's home up in the desolated forest area by Dr. N. He takes a bus for the first time, gets robbed all his belongings, and with the help of his friend Cassiel, makes it to Maggie's doorstep under the rain, covered in blood and shivering. Maggie cleans him up as he asks her if he is too late. She replies by saying she couldn't marry Fury because she's in love with him instead. They get intimate all night, sharing memorable feelings and memories. In the morning, Maggie heads out to get some items from the local store and Seth stays back to have a warm shower for his first time. He smells different fragrance of perfumes and tastes fruits equally for the first time. A terrible tragedy occurs on Maggie's way back to the house as she's hit by a truck. Seth immediately feels it from the house and rushes to the side to see helpless Maggie laying on the ground. Maggie tells him she sees people and is not afraid to go with them because if asked what makes her happy, she will say it him who makes her happy. Maggie dies. Months passed. Seth is depressed for very long while but finally doesn't gives up on life. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more content as this. Comment a movie you will like to see a recap on. Stay blessed.